Oh, Elden Ring, our game of the year for 2022. It's been several months since we all stepped into the lands between, and yet Elden Ring continues to lurk in the back of our minds as the year comes to a close. No other game this year was as intricate, as sprawling, and as beautiful as From Software's open-world action RPG. Elden Ring is the pinnacle of what From Software has gestured at in all of its previous games. A broken world filled with broken people. Methodical melee combat, dazzling spells, and spectacular boss fights. It's not just a game for Dark Souls fans. It's a game for fans of rich Western fantasy, penned in part by George R.R. Martin, infused with Boschian surrealism, Japanese and cosmic horror, and vistas torn right out of romantic paintings. The game opens in Limgrave, a region marked by glowing plains and crumbling stone. The Erdtree stares down at you as you take your first steps out of the tutorial dungeon and meet one of Elden Ring's strange characters. You're maidenless and have no hope of becoming Elden Lord. You are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity, Vare tells you, and for many, many hours, you do. You die a lot in Elden Ring, but you keep going because, with just a little effort and maybe a different approach, its world starts to give up its secrets, and they're delicious. Over time, the margins of the lands between are filled in, but its biggest mysteries are left unresolved. What is the Elden Ring? What is the Erdtree? What is the Greater Will? What comes after all of this? The answers to these questions are murky, and over the course of the game, you have to figure them out on your own. You search through labyrinthian catacombs and castles, past skeletons and beasts, looking for crumbs. The discarded helmets and daggers tell a story and prepare you as you journey towards the base of the Erdtree. You wield sorceries gifted from the stars, swing axes sharpened for dragons, and wear armor enchanted by gods. There are dozens of bosses to fight, many of which feel like a culmination of From Software's entire ethos. They push you to experiment and learn and execute on tactics that are born out of the tools you picked up along the way. The Shardbearers, Elden Ring's toughest foes, face you with magic and weapons that you shouldn't be able to overcome. These battles take place on crimson battlefields, in ancient libraries, and desiccated routes. No matter how punishing they might seem initially, Elden Ring is a game made for you to eventually see their defeat, be it through sheer might, items that exploit their weaknesses, or with the help of another tarnished. Eventually, you reach the capital city, Leyndell. Its golden streets are patrolled by royal guards who are not only aware of the rot that lies below, but devoted to the structures that ignore it. There are pieces of Elden Ring that resonate in the wake of a catastrophic global pandemic. It's impossible not to see it, especially if you're familiar with the themes that From Software returns to over and over again. As you carve a trail through the lands between, you can see centuries of failure in the debris, and in the end, you have to reckon with that. But for all of Elden Ring's intense melancholy, the game is equally as absurd. You fight jars with arms and legs, snake people, spider hands, horn blowers, and dogs. Elden Ring was a mimetic force in pop culture, spawning loads of clips, fan art, jokes, and even its own legendary folk hero. Few games reach that far outside of gaming purely based on how tremendously weird and detailed they are. Elden Ring is a puzzle we weren't meant to solve, and so, naturally, all we could do was talk about it. Although Elden Ring's imagination feels boundless, you can still find the edges. That's where the lands between truly come to life, because Elden Ring is simply incomplete without the imagination of everyone playing it. It's a game that urges you to plunge into the unknown and come out of it with your own perspective and approach. It's a collaborative, communal experience, and no other game this year managed to be so transfixing.